right, we're going to get started. Thank you all for joining us this morning at our final event of our five-city roadshow here. We were in Philly and Boston last week, New York and New Jersey the 2 weeks before that. We've had great turnout and really great feedback on the event, so I think we're going to give you a lot of good content to think about today. My name is Neil Rosenberg. I'm the president of QTS. We are a Microsoft Gold partner and solutions integrator, so we basically help companies to make all the stuff happen that we're going to be talking about today. We're happy to present today along with our partners New Horizons, a great training and learning partner, Software One, a great licensing partner, and Citrix, who has a lot of complementary solutions to Microsoft client set. So our agenda for today will be pretty packed. We've got a lot of little modules that we'll be presenting. So we'll start off with an overview of what are key features and considerations. You know, why should you consider the move to Windows 10, and what is important background for you in considering that. We will then talk about top features. Bill Macciola, who's frantically setting up the device bar in the back there, is our practice lead for Windows and client deployment, and we're setting up a collection of different Microsoft and non-Microsoft devices running Windows 10 that on break and afterwards you can take a look at, touch, feel, experience, because that's one of the great things about Windows 10 now particularly is all the different types of devices that Microsoft is supporting, both of their own and other vendors. We're going to talk more about that. So we'll have the device bar up and running shortly. Then Jake from New Horizons is going to talk about some of their organization's experience helping organizations move to a new version of Windows. What are some of the gotchas? What are some of the considerations and best practices from a cultural and adoption as well as training perspective? Because at the end of the day, as technologists, we can do a great job, but if the users aren't empowered to use the solution effectively, you won't get nearly the business value out of it that you would with smooth deployment training. We'll take a break in the middle, chance to see the device bar and chat and network with each other and with speakers. After the break, Software One will present on licensing considerations. There's a lot of new information, a lot of nuances and changes and useful information about how Microsoft is approaching licensing in this cloud-first, mobile-first world. Software One will share thoughts on that. Then Bill and I are going to tag team a bit and talk about some of the different deployment tools and technologies that you can use, and what are some best practices in actually technically rolling out Windows 10 across an organization. We'll wrap up with Citrix. We've been a Citrix partner for a long, long time, since the early 90s when we started QTS, and Citrix has always had a great complementary message to Microsoft, and as their technologies have changed, that message has evolved, and we'll learn more about where Citrix is going in keeping up with Microsoft and the changes that it is driving. We will try, if we can keep close to schedule, to wrap up with the Q&A panel with the speakers, and then try to get you out of here by noon. So it's a lot of material. We've been fairly close to on schedule the last few times, so hopefully we can keep things on track. Some very quick background on QTS, who we are, and why we're presenting. We are as I said, a Microsoft Gold partner. More important, probably, we are what's called a locally managed partner, which means we have a close working relationship with the Microsoft reps in the local offices. And we're managed out of New York Metro, and we're actually Partner of the Year for the entire New York Metro District 2 of the last 3 years. So we have a very close working relationship with the field team at Microsoft as well as the support organizations. And you'll get a sense as Bill speaks as a subject matter expert on this. Our engineering team is very much like Bill, senior level, very strong communications and interpersonal skills, so we're very good at working with customers collaboratively and in a knowledge transfer capacity. And that also ties to some of our offerings and promotions that we'll have as we wrap up today's event. So that's a good break point to segue into why Windows 10. We wanted that from the beginning. Much better. Okay, and for you guys who know us for a little bit, you may say, that's a different logo, and that's because we changed our logo this year. So the business cards I gave you are actually retro business cards. Save them, trade them, just like baseball cards. Okay, so Windows 10, Microsoft, when they work on releasing a new product or an upgrade to a product, they define what are called pillars, or areas of core focus in development of the technology. And really the pillars of Windows 10 tie very much to Microsoft's new mission statement, which is helping people and organizations to achieve more, and to the messaging that Satya Nadella has driven through Microsoft of being a cloud-first, mobile-first organization. So really the four key pillars, and I would argue the four key areas of focus in why you should look at Windows 10 would be, number one, achieving more, empowering your organizations to achieve more, empowering the IT team to achieve more as we talk about deployment tools and management capabilities. Number two, empowering and creating innovative devices for making things happen. There's a lot of creativity, and Microsoft is certainly leading that with Surface Pro and Surface Book, and you're going to get a flavor for how this all ties together as we put through this presentation and Bill's demonstration. Protection against modern security threats. I'm sure that you see in your day-to-day jobs how the landscape has changed in terms of the nature and the volume of security threats that we have to manage against. And Windows 10 being a modern operating system, Microsoft's newest operating system, is optimized for that and for manageability. And to manage for continuous innovation. And Bill's going to talk a little bit about updating, and Software One will as well. But the idea here is that this is a platform that will empower staying current and bringing new capabilities to users. So let's drill down on each of those, and we'll start with achieving more and productivity. Really three key tenets here. Number one, making Windows 10 easier for Windows 7 users. Okay, so you didn't know this was coming, but now is the audience participation part of today's event. So how many of you are currently running Windows 10 organizationally? Has anybody rolled out already? How many of you are testing Windows 10? Okay, good percentage. That's fairly typical. Most of the events we've been about 60 to 70%, evaluating, testing. How many of you are running Windows 8 across your organization today? Nobody? That's also fairly typical. And how about Windows 7? Okay, and that's the sweet spot, and that's where everyone is. It seems like everybody was comfortable in Windows XP, and then Vista came out, and everybody said, and went to Windows 7, and then Windows 8 came out, and I wouldn't know that everybody said, but there was not a broad adoption of Windows 8 in the marketplace. Why is that? Why do you think Windows 8 didn't get traction? Is it a bad product? Did it have a lot of security flaws? Did it have poor performance? Yep. They took away the start button, our little play on words in the title for today's event. And why was the interface so radically different? Yeah. The modern interface. We're not allowed to call it Metro or we get sued. That's actually why. That's actually why SkyDrive is now OneDrive also. Interesting little trivia. The British communications company Sky threatened to sue Microsoft. They had to change the name. I guess Microsoft may have Azure, but they own Sky. So the interface was radically different, and that was shocking and disruptive to a lot of corporate users. It also, frankly, wasn't thought through that well. I mean, not being able to easily find a power down, button, and there were just kludgy things, having two browsers. Windows 10 has two. Well, we'll get back to that. But having two different browsers with the same name and a lot of confusion over when to use what. But why did Microsoft move so far afield with Windows 8? I mean, that was a really major change from what people were used to, but there was a reason they did it. Mobile. More specifically, tablets, iPads. Microsoft had to compete with Apple. We had to have something to fight in the mobile war before Apple took over the tablet space, and before Google and Android took over the tablet space. And so Microsoft came out with an operating system with Windows 8 that was really good for touch-optimized tablet devices, but really confusing for desktop workers, traditional corporate knowledge workers. And it was. And so a lot of people held back. And even though Microsoft got it better with 8.1, and then even better with Update 1, and they kind of merged together the worlds closer, it was less and less of a split-brained operating system, it still, it was trying to be pulled from an extreme to the middle. Windows 10 was designed to kind of take the best of both worlds. It's got the security, the mobility, the performance Windows 8 offered, and it still has tiles, but the tiles are friendlier and they tie into start buttons, so there's a familiar grounding in navigation. If you put Windows 10 in front of a Windows 7 user, they're not going to be as startled. They'll be able to navigate because the concepts they're used to are still there, still applicable. But it's also a very good mobile platform. Now, familiar UX, you need a dictionary for all the acronyms that Microsoft uses. So, familiar user experience. Now, what do we mean by that? It's scaled across devices. Microsoft's strategy, we're going to talk about this in the next slide, is really an interesting competitive strategy to Apple and Google from an operating system perspective, and it takes advantage of a lot of their footprint in other spaces. It's really the long-term strategy that will drive some greater degree of success in the Windows Phone, and that is to have a consistent user interface across different Microsoft devices. What's a device we haven't talked about that has this tile interface that Windows 8 has? Think home entertainment. Xbox. Did you know that Xbox has been, for the last about 10 years, in the same reporting structure as Windows? People think about that and they're like, that's strange. Why is that? Totally different. It's been a long-term goal to bring the Xbox-like interface to Windows. The idea of tiles, really Xbox was the first product, followed by Windows Phone, to embrace that. So what you see is a commonality of interface across devices, across PCs and tablets and phones, and other types of devices, and also a commonality of code, but we're going to come back to that. And then driving increased user productivity. You'll see elements of this as we continue. So I would argue that Microsoft's strategy to compete with Apple and Google is actually a pretty strong strategy. We'll see how it works, and recognizes mistakes they've made, but also a core strength of Microsoft's that got turned on them by Apple, by Google. So anybody here use a Windows Phone? Has anybody used a Windows Phone historically? Okay, so is it a bad device?
I love my phone. I have to upgrade and I can't wait to upgrade.
It's not a bad product, right? The main limitation of the Windows Phone platform is that Windows Phone doesn't have the apps. They have an app store, but they didn't get enough developers to write the apps, because by the time all the developers wrote for Apple and then rewrote or recompiled for Google, and they had 95% of the market share covered, well, why do I want to bother? And if you think about it, when Windows took off in the 90s, it took off on the backs of developers, because developers wrote apps for organizations to use to drive productivity. So the developer community has always been a huge asset for Microsoft that got completely left behind on the phone platform. That was a huge mistake by Microsoft. So if you think about Windows 10, the idea of universal apps is that a developer who writes code for a traditional computer can take that same code, as long as it conforms with the programming guidelines of Windows 10, and it will run on tablets, and it will also run on phones. There's a technology actually built into Windows that Bill's going to demonstrate called Continuum. Have any of you heard of Continuum before? Continuum is really cool. There's been predictions for many, many years that at some point we won't be carrying computers around anymore. We'll just carry our phones, plug it into a docking station for a larger screen and a keyboard, and our phone will be our computer. Do we have a limitation in terms of processing power? Most phones right now are as powerful as a lot of computers were a few years ago. It's not a hardware limitation. It's here. This is Continuum, the idea of Windows Phone or any Windows device being able to automatically detect displays and keyboards and peripherals and automatically reconfigure. Now we just need the devices that take advantage of that, the docking stations and the peripherals, to make that happen. This is a whole new potential area for productivity. But if you think about it, the developers write the apps, they're going to run across a range of platforms. And that range of platforms is even broader. Here we have the Xbox, which Kinect is actually a really cool technology, and there's a lot of business uses for Kinect on Windows. You know, it's not just an Xbox technology. Sensor that detects motion. There's a lot of healthcare and retail applications for use of Xbox. Traditional PC, laptop, you know, multi-form, tablet, phone, tablet, hybrid, tablet, phone, smartphone, circuit board. What's a circuit board doing here? We'll come back to that. This big TV-looking thing running Windows. What's that? What's that? Surface Hub. We'll come back to that. And those goggles there. They're not ski goggles. That's HoloLens. We're going to come back to that. All running Windows 10. All capable of running code written for Windows 10. All capable of being managed through group policy on Windows 10. Okay, we're getting interesting here. All manageable through the management tools you use today for Windows devices. And the first example of a universal app is Office apps for Windows 10. And with the Office components, we have the ability, for example, to take advantage of touch interfaces. We have the ability to integrate with technologies like Cortana, voice recognition, which was originally released for Windows Phone, but is now part of Windows 10. Bill's going to show, that and talk about that. And it's not just for Windows. You now have Office on Apple and Google platforms, but the idea is to provide the best possible experience and integration on the Windows platform and for your code to go across device types. Now, Internet Explorer. Bill is going to, I don't want to steal his thunder, he's going to make an observation. I'm going to just drop the hint. You need to pay attention. He's going to tell you something really important that many of you probably don't know and need to know about Internet Explorer during his session. I'm going to leave it at that. Just torment you a little bit. But it is really important, and you do need to really be aware of it. That being said, Internet Explorer is part of Windows 10. Internet Explorer 11 will run on earlier versions of Windows, so making sure your apps are compatible with 11 is going to be important for many reasons, but it also paves the way to 10. And it's still the browser that gives you the best experience in terms of business applications, the ability to run plugins, the ability to control through group policy. It's basically your business browser. Remember I said Windows 8 had 2 Internet Explorers? That was confusing. Well, Windows 10 has 2 browsers. Internet Explorer is not on the menu by default, but all you have to do is search for it and pin it to the menu, and it's there. But the default browser is Edge. It used to be called Project Spartan. And the idea behind this browser is we're not going to be tied to the past. We're going to have a new browser platform that is meant for easily consuming written material, online reading, so optimized to be able to get rid of ads and get rid of things that are distracting. Integration with Cortana, so the browser will integrate with voice commands, and the ability to integrate with OneNote. Microsoft kind of said we're going to keep IE for legacy purposes and for manageability, but we're going to introduce Edge to be able to give people new capabilities that we couldn't build into IE, and we'll take in a new direction. And I think this is more, it's a generalization, but I think of Edge as more the consumer browser and IE more the business browser. But, you have to come to your own conclusions on it. Next silo, innovative devices for making things happen. But Windows 10 is designed to run on devices that you're currently running Windows 7 or 8 on. It's funny, years ago you would dread the next release of Windows because the operating system would be 2 to 4 times as big. You would need to get computers with bigger hard disks, more processor, and more memory, and you'd have to throw out all the old hardware. But Microsoft kind of stopped that after Vista. They've kept Windows code more streamlined, in spite of all the security updates and everything built into it. And they have written Windows in a way where it will run effectively on older hardware. Now, you still have a decision to make because older hardware doesn't have the latest security technologies, forms of authentication, encryption, etc. And older hardware, will have a life cycle limitation. After 3 years, 5 years, whatever, depending on the vendor, it's going to be less reliable. Plus, new hardware has new capabilities like touch. Is at a very good price point right now for laptops and so on. So, keep my old hardware and upgrade the operating system in place. We're going to talk about upgrade methods. Or I can put in new hardware to take advantage of new capabilities, but it's a choice. It's not something you're forced into. And I do see organizations sometimes stretching out their refresh cycles. Just time to rethink the way you were doing things. The past is not necessarily an indicator of the future these days. So the idea here for Windows is being industry ready on any Windows 10 device. And we say that because in a lot of organizations, computers are traditional computers. If you work in a law firm or an insurance company or an ad agency, you probably have desktop computers, laptop computers. But if you're working in construction or field service, you might have ruggedized computers. You might have point-of-sale terminals in a retail environment that need to be secured in a certain way because it's a huge PCI violation if somebody can plug a USB drive. Anybody here in retail? Huge PCI violation if somebody can plug a USB drive into a computer and access the computer that's registered, that might have credit card information, etc. So different security considerations in any given market. So the idea here from Microsoft is to empower innovation on devices across different interfaces. Any of you use the pen? Anybody use the Surface here? Handwriting is actually pretty good, even on Windows 8, and it's better on Windows 10. I was using it for note-taking for a while, and then I got lazy and went back to pen and paper. I'm an old-school guy, but for a long time I was taking notes and actually doing the conversion of the notes to digital. I had to do some cleanup, but it's really better than you would expect. I technology is rapidly improving. And voice now with Cortana, touch, the price point has come down considerably. A lot of the new laptops you buy are touch enabled without really a significant price premium, or in some cases any price premium. And you have the 2-in-1 type devices. How many of you are familiar? Has anybody seen the Surface Book? Or have you seen it on TV ads and stuff like that? I've been saying for years, somebody needs to come out with an attachable keyboard to make the Surface into a traditional laptop. They stole my idea. But it really is an elegant looking piece of hardware. And the Surface was really a creative piece of hardware. And, you know, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. What did everyone do earlier? You know, they started making Surface clones. You don't have to buy a Microsoft Surface now. HP, Dell, Lenovo, they all make devices that are lookalikes and a little bit cheaper. So why did Microsoft get into the hardware market? Their market share is probably never going to be the same as Dell or HP that have been in that market forever and that have captured your hearts as IT buyers. So why did Microsoft come into this market space? I would say 2 reasons. Number one, they're in fierce battle with Apple, and Apple has Apple stores, and Steve Jobs' philosophy at Apple was always control the whole user experience. Did anybody read Walter Isaacson's bio on Steve Jobs? I haven't seen, I think the movie is just coming out. I don't know how good the movie is. The biography is a great book. Isaacson's an amazing writer, but really recommend it. But, you know, getting in his head, it was all about controlling the experience. So that's what Microsoft did with Surface. They came out, they didn't say, HP, make a laptop that looks like this and put Windows on it. Well, I shouldn't say that. They did say that, and HP made tablets and put Android on it. Why did they do that? Because Microsoft was charging a royalty for Windows on all devices. And the hardware vendors couldn't compete on price point. We were competing with each other, and one vendor would come out with Android for free, and another vendor would say, I can either compete with that, or I can put Windows on and pay Microsoft $150 and be priced out. So a couple things. Microsoft eliminated the royalties a year and a half ago for Windows on devices that are, I believe, 7.9 inches and smaller. So now Microsoft made it possible for the tablet vendors to put Windows on and compete with Android. That's why you saw an explosion about a year and a half ago of new devices running Windows. And number 2, Microsoft came out with Surface. And they did this because the other vendors weren't moving fast enough. They weren't innovating. They weren't creating device innovation. So Microsoft essentially said, okay, we'll do it ourselves. Not to dominate the market, but to pull the market forward around Windows. And in that, I think they've succeeded, because now the other vendors have come around and they do have these innovative devices. And we're seeing a lot of traction with Surface. A lot of our corporate clients are adopting Surface in chunks within the organization. If any of you are, how many of you guys have more than 200, 250 users in your environment? Okay, so there's probably a program where we can work with your Microsoft rep to either get you a demo unit or get you, 2 for the price of 1. There are different programs in market at different times. But if you're interested in looking at Surface, that's something, talk to us or your Microsoft account rep about. But they're trying to move the market, and I think they've been successful. And we're seeing a lot of interest in Surface and Surface Book, and they've established a brand in that regard. Now, we break the mold of traditional computing devices. We have Surface Hub, we have HoloLens, we have this pesky little circuit board that keeps showing up. I'm going to come back to HoloLens and Surface Hub. Let's talk about why that circuit board is there. And it's there because of the Internet of Things, IoT. Anybody doing anything with IoT today? IoT is a huge opportunity for creativity and reinvention. So I'll give you one of my favorite IoT stories. We go to Microsoft's Worldwide Partner Conference every year. My Vice President, Christine, is involved in the planning committee for it. It's a huge event. Partners from around the world come out, get a lot of presentations, drink the Kool-Aid for several days, so to speak. And one of the presentations they gave in one of the North America sessions, one of the vice presidents, Judson Althoff, came out and brought out the president of a washing machine company. Not a, or it may have been a laundromat company. It's not a brand I recognized. And what was interesting in the story is that the washing machines had circuit boards in them running Windows. And they would collect information from the washing machines about failures, impending failures, how much weight was put in the machine when people did different laundry cycles. You know, all this useful information, if you're in the laundromat and washing machine business, was being collected by data capture endpoints and then sent up through an internet connection to Azure, to Microsoft's cloud platform, where that data was stored for analysis and reporting. Great IoT story. You don't think of a washing machine as a computing endpoint, but it's at the core of this organization's business, and they're collecting information with which to make better business decisions. Do I buy brand X or brand Y? Brand X is cheaper, but it fails a lot more than brand Y. The overall cost of brand X is a lot higher, so let's buy brand Y. Do I have a lot of usage and traffic in the suburbs versus in the city? Information that helps you make better business decisions. And by the way, anybody here using Microsoft Power BI? It's an extension of Office 365. We'll probably do a webinar on this in the winter, but Power BI is an amazing technology. I can probably get funding for pilot POC engagements if any of you are interested. But it's a great way to connect to a data source and drag and drop, just create dashboards to visualize information to make business decisions based on information in your back-end systems. And our quick start engagement for that is days, not weeks, not months, days to be up and running. Not even a whole lot of them necessarily. So the idea here is that we rethink the role of the computer. But as we put these computing devices out into different places, maybe on telephone poles with cameras, or maybe in utility rooms within buildings with control systems, we still have to manage, we still have to secure, we still have to have connectivity. It's part of our network. Our network has grown. Our security footprint has grown. Our attack surface has grown. How do we manage that? Windows devices can be managed through group policy and Windows management tools. The strategy. And you can scale it down. A circuit board doesn't have a screen, so we don't have to worry about the user interface. But the idea is we have a variety of device types that all can run Windows 10 and all be managed and secured as Windows devices. And applying things like the TPM module that's in most hardware you buy today, and the ability to control application access, and so on through policy. Surface Hub. Microsoft a few years ago bought a company called Performance Pixel, PPI. They were somewhat innovative in that they were one of the early vendors in the large screen display business, but they had built some intelligence into the units, and Microsoft saw the potential to tie this into Windows and drive the price down. So Surface Hub, Microsoft's not trying to compete with Samsung in the TV business. Surface Hub is a high-resolution touch display with Windows built in, with Skype for Business built in, and conferencing tools built in. You put one of these in your conference room, and it's a whole new way to run a meeting. By the way, the video conferencing is built in, so you can tie in other rooms through Link, which which is now Skype for Business. Everyone know about that change? The artist formerly known as Link has now turned into Skype for Business. Okay? And those technologies have merged, and I think that's a positive thing because we've brought the more interface of Skype to business, but we have a lot of the core code and functionality of Link server, but then with some of the voice capabilities of Skype built in. And as just a minor aside, Microsoft is launching, any of you guys using Office 365 today? Using the E3? So Microsoft's going to be launching the E5 part number late this year. And the E5 basically takes what's in the E3, Exchange, SharePoint, Skype for Business, Yammer, OneDrive, and it's going to add a couple of components, primarily Skype for Business Enterprise Voice. So you can now run your PBX in the cloud, your conferencing, everything. You can essentially get rid of your on-premise phone system. I can't wait. We use Link as our phone system at QTS, and it's been fine, but I want to get that stuff out of my server room. And Power BI. So we're now putting the BI tools in front of users as a fairly attractive fixed monthly subscription. And there's some other things built into that. That'll be an E5 part number, and you'll see promotions from Microsoft on that as we get into the winter. But the idea here is that Surface Hub will integrate with Skype and provide that collaborative experience. So I'm just in displaying here, going to try to switch. I don't know if I have to drag this over. I will send you all a link to this video afterwards because it's not coming over. And I don't want to fight with it. I will also send you a link for HoloLens. And there's actually some stuff running on the PCs and the Surface Bar out there. How many of you are familiar with HoloLens? Anybody read the announcements? It's HoloLens. VR. Virtual reality. Thank you. I'm going to make a slight adjustment, if I may. I'm going to call it AR. I'm going to call it augmented reality. Virtual reality is I put on the goggles and I see my virtual world and the real world is nowhere to be found. Augmented reality is I put on the goggles and I look at you and I see your name, title, information, etc. Augmented reality is I work in AutoCAD and create a design of a motorcycle. I put on my goggles and I visualize the motorcycle in 3D. And I tap the palette and say change the green to blue, and it changes to blue. Really cool stuff. And I'll try to play this on break when the break get the audio working. But a nice video that kind of illustrates the concepts. And again, the creativity. This is an opportunity for you as IT leaders, as technologists, to say where we're going is different from where we've been. There's an opportunity to do something more than just keep systems up and running. What can I do to bring new capabilities to my organization? And so HoloLens is not commercially available yet. There are demo units available for application developers. I think it's like 3,000 each for people that are writing code for HoloLens, but the apps aren't here yet. I mean, there's some stuff in test. Autodesk has been working with Microsoft for a few years on this, so they're getting there, but it's not really commercially viable yet because the apps haven't arrived. They will. That's why it's out there now in that mode. Security. We are living in a different and arguably much more dangerous world than we were years ago. In the old days, we were concerned about cyber crime. In our current world, we have cyber espionage, cyber warfare, and cyber terror. I'm not making it up. All you have to do is turn on CNN, or any of the other news channels, depending on your preferences. In the old days, hackers would focus on Fortune 500. I think it was Jesse James, the bank robber, when interviewed, he said, "Why do you rob banks?" He said, "Because that's where the money is." Well, nowadays, it's not about financial services and Fortune 500. I'm not embarrassed to say, and I'll tell it to illustrate the point, QTS is about a 25-person consulting firm in New Jersey. I'd like to think we're an industry leader and well-known in our space, but we're not exactly Microsoft. Our website got hacked earlier this year and defaced. We had it up and running, we switched to a backup and so on. And I just couldn't for the life of me figure out why somebody, would go after us. I mean, I'd like to think we're that significant, but we're not that big. And there was no financial, anything to steal. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a marketing consultant. He actually, literally, I can say he wrote a book on marketing ROI. And he said, yeah, my site got hacked twice this year also. And he's a solo. He's got a business of one person. That's who's being attacked. It wasn't that QTS was being attacked. Some script somewhere ran across the internet and found a vulnerability and took down our site. It was automated. Nobody was targeting QTS. That's the world we're living in now. This is what we have to deal with. So small businesses have just as much exposure as large businesses just because they're on the internet. In the past, we worried about malware. Now we have compromises of identity in the hundreds of thousands or millions of user ID scale. So as you think about the things that we have to protect against, you have to ask yourselves and your business leaders who say, we're very comfortable with Windows 7. We don't want to go to something new. Well, how old is Windows 7? 5-year-old, 6-year-old operating system, thereabouts? 5 or 6-year-old security technologies. Microsoft will release security updates for Windows 7 through the security lifecycle. That's typically 10 years for business products, 5 years of mainstream support, and then 5 years of extended support. But after that, there will be no more updates. All the new security technology and enhancements will be in the current operating systems, which is Windows 8 or Windows 10. So as you look at your organization, we need to look at how do we protect and manage and secure identity, which is critically important, especially in this world of cloud applications. Part of that with Microsoft, and we'll talk about the enterprise mobility suite at the end, is the ability to manage identity back from Active Directory. So how do we secure the data on devices? That can be BitLocker and some of the security technologies that are part of Windows 10. How do we secure the device itself and manage it and secure the connection? By the way, how many of you use direct access today? Anybody? How many of you are familiar with direct access? This is a really cool technology. If you run Windows 7 or higher Enterprise Edition and you put a Windows, I'd recommend 2012 R2 server on the perimeter of your network, you can set up clientless VPN with direct access. Right now I'm powered up on my Surface. I can access all my internal network resources. I didn't do a separate login. I just logged into the computer. Really great technology. The benefit is it's really seamless from a user perspective. You don't really need any extra training. It's very easy. And from an IT perspective, it eliminates a stack of infrastructure to support. You don't need third-party VPN technologies. Citrix has some great technology in that space too, so not to take away from Citrix, but it all depends on the use cases and what you're trying to accomplish. The last focus area was managing for continuous innovation. So 4 major areas of focus within that. From a a management perspective, there are a lot of industry standards in terms of mobile device management and management technology. Remember I was saying how the lines were blurring between phones and PCs? Well, Windows supports all those standards. So if you're using an AirWatch or a Mobile Iron or Mass 360 or a non-Microsoft technology for MDM, they'll natively be able to support Windows as well. And Microsoft has Intune, which is their solution in that space, which we'll talk about in a moment. We'll come back and talk about deployment after the break, but new approaches to deployment. App and device compatibility. Citrix is going to have some interesting things to say about app DNA and how we can help you with that. And App Store for Business. So Microsoft has an App Store for Windows for consumers, but you can also create a business sub-store for distributing your own applications within your organization, if you choose to. And that can be branded, etc. All right, so as I wrap up, I want to talk about something related to Windows, which is the Enterprise Mobility Suite, or EMS. Anybody here have EMS today? How many of you guys have an MDM solution in place today, like AirWatch or Mobile Iron? How many of you are happy with that MDM solution you have today? I find it's about 50-50, and I don't necessarily see a pattern. So it's kind of strange because I get a lot of strange looks when I talk about the Enterprise Mobility Suite, and yet this is a product that last year, Satya Nadella described as the most important strategic product Microsoft has brought to market in the year. It drives me crazy that you people don't know about this, but it's Microsoft doesn't get the word out all the time. So the Enterprise Mobility Suite is a collection of products that Microsoft brought to market last year and has picked up huge market momentum this year for empowering BYOD and mobility, but doing it with security and management. There are 4 pieces. The slide is lying. There's really a 4th piece. The first piece is managing identity in a cloud-first, mobile-first world. So Azure Active Directory Premium. Some of you said you used Office 365 today, so you have Azure Active Directory today. If you have a DirSync or an AAD sync server, it is synchronizing user IDs and metadata, including email addresses, and possibly passwords to Office 365. Your users may be logging in against that database with those passwords, or you may be using ADFS or a third-party technology to authenticate that against Active Directory. All separate discussion about that. What Azure AD Premium does as a pay-for product is it hooks into those pieces, but it ties in a catalog of about 2,500 plus cloud applications that can take authentication from Active Directory. They've written to Microsoft's APIs, so if you're managing users who are accessing Salesforce, or Dropbox, or Box, or Concur, or Workday, or any of the plethora of other cloud-based applications that are out there, you can direct those authentications back to Active Directory, which means you have a single point of identity management for provisioning accounts, and you have a single point of identity management for shutting off accounts. But that's probably not a big deal because I'm sure you guys deactivate every cloud account for all your users today when anyone leaves the company. So I'm sure it's not a security exposure for anyone. This is a great tool for an IT organization to say, we embrace the cloud and we control it. Intune. Intune is Microsoft's competitor to Mass 360 and AirWatch and Mobile Iron and the others. It's actually pretty feature rich. I'll spare you the history of Intune. I could go on for 5 minutes on that. But we've competed with all the major vendors head-to-head with Intune, and large companies doing evaluations on the merits have chosen Intune. It's feature for feature, going to stand up against any of the other major competitors, but it's a Microsoft product bundled into a Microsoft suite, It is a cloud platform. There's no Intune on-premise, but you can integrate it. How many of you guys use System Center Config Manager today? You guys, we deployed it for you. SCCM, we're going to talk about that later in deployment tools, so you guys are in great shape for Windows 10, depending on the version you're running. You can tie Intune into SCCM, so that SCCM becomes the interface for managing the mobile devices. Intune becomes the cloud extension to get to your phones and tablets, as well as off-network PCs. Rights management services is the ability to set security rights on documents, irrespective of where they're located, whether they're emailed. You can do it with emails as well. So if I set security rights for Jake or for Bill to be able to open a document and he forwards it to Jake at New Horizons outside our organization, traditional security, Jake's got the document. But with RMS, we can set the rights so that Jake can actually open the document. He just can't print it or cut and paste contents to the clipboard. And by the way, Jake, sorry, but you lose rights to the document in 7 days, so you better read it soon. So RMS gives you that ability to control your data in this mobile world. And then the last piece, Microsoft bought a company this summer that had technology that became Advanced Threat Analytics, or ATA. And that's essentially a security monitoring technology that looks at your domain controllers and your access to applications and looks for suspicious behaviors. So if Neil Rosenberg is logged in right now in Hartford, Connecticut, and strangely enough he's also logged in Romania, something might be amiss here with my ID. Not that there's anything wrong with Romania, I've just never been there and I've never logged in. So that's the Enterprise Mobility Suite. There's promotions running on it now. If you're a corporate account, talk to your Microsoft rep or us, or to Software One, who's going to be talking after the break. And we'll probably mention this. And Bill Massiola, you're up. No, I'm not sure. I could keep going, but you should probably give me the hook while you have a chance. While Bill transitions, any questions? Was this helpful? Is this what you needed for? Okay, good. So Bill's going to kind of make this stuff real for you, show you a little bit about it, from New Horizons training and cultural adoption.
So I heard Neil mention Continuum. So one of the features we're going to talk about is Continuum for Windows 10. And Continuum means that basically there's two aspects to it. The first aspect is that essentially I can have the same user experience across any type of device, any platform. So I have my Windows 10 phone here. I have my OneDrive for Business where I have my slideshow loaded, and I'm running PowerPoint, and I'm going to do my presentation from my phone. Can you guys all see that okay? I still get three faces, and I don't understand that. I do this so that I can see my key points and talking points, but I also do that to show you that, yes, I can work both on my laptop and move the same slide deck. So that's part of the Continuum experience we're talking about.
I just brought you up.
Oh yeah, I'm going to drop the presentation so that I can show this. But where is how do I minimize our web?
Let's try.
Yeah, I'm gonna duplicate so that I can actually show features, so we can just kind of tuck it to the side and we'll look around. Okay. All right. we're going to start by there we go. Okay, so I want to start by duplicating the screen so that we can take a look at some of the features of Windows 10. And we're going to look at the Start menu because we brought that back. Now, I was a big fan of Windows 8.1, Windows 8. I love the Start page concept, and I felt the need that we no longer needed the Start menu, but of course, the industry spoke and the Start menu is back. My dad, at the age of 80, decided he was going to buy a laptop, and that came with Windows 8.1, and that was where I kind of discovered the wrinkle with Windows 8.1. I was trying to explain to him as a novice user that there were two interfaces, a start page interface, the modern interface, and the desktop, but more importantly, trying to explain to him that there were two separate browsers, one that ran as a modern app and one that ran as a traditional app. That caused a sense of confusion. So when Windows 10 came out and I saw that the Start menu became a standard feature with the best of the Start pages, that makes sense. And further, there's one universal app for Internet Explorer 11 and the Edge browser, which is a newer browser. The thing about the Start page, or the Start menu, I should say, is that we still have this box tab, this little integrated box that helps you with search. It's also integrated, in my case, with Cortana. So I have the experience that I can see weather forecast and top news, and what other things that I find important, I can integrate into the Cortana experience as well. But one of the things that was important about Windows 8 and 8.1 was that the Start page became search integrated. And what I would tell people, and I tell people the same thing with Windows 10, if you can't find something, just start typing. One of our clients we took from Windows 7 to Windows 10, and he said to me, "Hey Bill, I want to run Word. Where'd they put Word?" So, "Hey Mike, I just start typing in the box, and lo and behold, our Word applications come up." He also said, "Hey, on the Start menu, I can't find the Control Panel. Where's the Control Panel?" Well, you can actually go into All Apps and start digging down for applications as well. Like for Word, I can go under W and find Word 2016. What I told him is if you're looking for Control Panel and you really don't want to dig around in the menu, just start typing. So I got Control Panel. So I've kind of pulled away of the standard search and Start menu, and I use the search functionality instead. But I have that traditional feel for users that are more comfortable with the Start menu. One of the nice features with this Start menu and the tiles is I have the ability to add and remove tiles from this Start menu. I can also resize them. So whatever I find is most important, I can actually resize it, make it very large. I can make it smaller. So I have this ability to resize tiles within the Start menu. I also have the ability to turn the live tile feature on and off. So one of the things, the news is not often good, but you get a live presentation of the headlines in your news tile. I have the ability to turn those things off. So very customizable Start menu, traditional look and feel with the application list, but I also have the nice live tiles that came from the Windows 8 initiatives. So one of the things that is also new with Windows 10 is the concept of virtual desktops. So I have the ability to create additional workspaces. I can create a new desktop, and one scenario that I would use would say, if I'm using my standard, worker apps like Word, Mail, and whatnot, I can use those in one virtual desktop, but I might want to do systems management tools in another. So I can separate my work. So I might want to run a management tool in my one virtual desktop, but switch back and forth to do my standard work, my standard presentations in the other. When I actually close a virtual desktop, my application will transition to the other. So the concept of virtual desktops is one of the new features that allows me to segregate my work into separate workspaces. I had mentioned Cortana, and here we have Cortana, our personal assistant, integrated with our our start menu and integrated with the Edge browser. It is, in fact, a personal assistant. I can figure out where it is that I am, and it will present me with a location, more or less accurate based on the information it's given. We talked about Continuum from being able to transition or have the same user experience on any platform. The other part about Continuum is that you will have automatic transitioning from a mouse and keyboard type of environment to a touch environment when you have something like a 2-in-1 computer. So when we go out to the device bar later on, you'll see there's a couple of them. There's the Surface Pros out there, the Surface Pro 3. There's the Lenovo Yoga, and there's a Dell as well. And they transition from a traditional laptop-style computer to a tablet. And when it does that, it will automatically transition the user interface essentially to a touch environment. I can show you that on this computer using the Action Center because, of course, if I rip my monitor off my standard laptop, it will break it. I don't want to do that. So what would happen is if I went to a 2-in-1 device and I went to tablet mode, I will see the start menu transition. Well, it should. Hold on a second. There we go. So now that we see is that the start menu is completely transitioned to touch-oriented. So any app I bring up is going to come up in full screen mode. Very touch-oriented. Go back into Action Center. Another nice feature of Windows 10 allows me to control my environment from a single location. And I transition back to tablet mode, and it should transition back to the standard start menu that I see with the expanded tiles. So I just locked the screen because I wanted to show you a little bit about Windows Hello. Windows Hello is a new security feature in Windows 10 that leverages biometrics. So this is a Lenovo laptop with a fingerprint scanner. It used to be that I had to go to Lenovo and download specific drivers for the biometric. All the biometric drivers are now built into Windows 10 and integrated with Windows Hello, which is a security mechanism that leverages biometrics. So it may be quick to see, but usually what happens is when I swipe my finger, you should see a little, yeah, it goes real quick. You'll see a little smiley face saying Windows Hello. And that's essentially that security feature leveraging the biometrics. One of the new features with Windows Hello is actually facial recognition. There's an Intel RealSense camera that will be built into some hardware platforms, but you can also purchase the camera separately. But essentially what it does is it is able to do facial recognition that can't be faked out using a picture. It uses infrared and can actually do a 3D sense that there's an actual face there and do facial recognition. That's part of the Windows Hello. So we're seeing these security features leveraging the biometrics in order to authenticate, getting away from traditional passwords. So Windows 10 comes with both the Edge browser, which is the modern browser. That is meant for modern websites based on HTML5. If you have older websites that may not work as nicely with HTML5 browsers, Internet Explorer 11 is there as well. What I usually do on the taskbar is I keep both up actually. I have both Internet Explorer and Edge browser in case I run into an older site. I've had pretty good luck though with Edge functioning without too much trouble. I'm going to bring up MSNBC on our browser, and I'm going to show you a couple of the features built into Windows 10 and the Edge browser. Let's see if we can find something that's of interest here. So when we bring up a page on the web and we're interested in taking a look at it, sometimes it's rather difficult to read because we've got all this gunk, all the advertising, all the other links. We now have in Edge browser a reading mode so that we can actually just take a look at a clean page and read the article as though we were reading a page out of a magazine, a page out of a book. So reading mode, very clean, very nice. We also have the ability, with the ink feature built into Edge, to actually mark up our page. So I have the ability to outline, make a note, pretty handy with a mouse. Huh? And I have the ability to save that to OneNote for later review. I can actually share that with other people as well. So close that one. So those are the features built into the Edge browser. HTML5 browser, I have the ability to ink and share that information. I have the ability to use the reading mode to make a cleaner look at what it is that I'm interested in. I'm going to transition back over to presentation mode here a minute. Internet Explorer 11 is there for backward compatibility. It's also an important note. This was actually posted by Microsoft in August of 2014, and they made a point to bring this up during the Microsoft Ignite conference back in May. But beginning January 12, 2016, only the most current version of Internet Explorer available for a supported platform will receive technical support and security updates. So what that means is that if you're running Windows 7 or you're running Windows 8.1, you should be on Internet Explorer 11 as of January. If you're running older versions of the web browser to support legacy applications, after January, you're no longer going to get security updates for that browser. So we're trying to make people aware to give you time to start looking at application compatibility when those applications are browser-based. You should look at Internet Explorer 11, test Internet Explorer 11, test Internet Explorer compatibility mode. And that will hopefully work with some of the legacy applications, but that's a very important date, January 2016. So that's essentially the 10 user experience features that I wanted to bring to your attention. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
All right. So we'll switch over, if you can switch the decks, to Jake from New Horizons. Jake is going to talk about training and adoption considerations. We've had a great partnership with New Horizons for probably 15 years at this point. And they've got a great presence across the Northeast and Central United States. They have a lot of franchises working together, which gives them a lot of efficiency. Great training partner, both to customize classes for you as well as to be able to offer one catalog of classes, classroom, distance learning, so very flexible in terms of looking at how to help organizations effectively adopt technology. So we'll turn it over to Jake, and
there you go. Thanks, Neil. All right, as mentioned, my name is Jake. I'm the Business Development Manager for New Horizons, and I represent all the Northeast. I'm going to talk to you about a couple topics today. Here's the agenda. Ultimately, I'm going to tell you a little bit about New Horizons, how we fit into the marketplace. Talk about deploying Windows 10, some business considerations that are often overlooked if you really derail your projects, and how New Horizons and other development options can help alleviate those issues and make sure that things go smoothly for your organization. So, we're the world's largest independent IT training provider. We're in 300 locations, 70 countries. We're a very large organization. I hate leading with that because ultimately we're right in your backyard. We're brick and mortar in most major markets. Our account teams are local, our instructors are local. We're right down the street. If you need something, we can be there at the drop of a hat, which is one of our big differentiators to some of our competition out there. We deliver about 40% of the world's Microsoft training, so we're one of their largest partners. We've been doing it for about 30 years. We were actually training people on mainframes in a guy's garage in California 30 years ago. We've come a long way, and we do a lot of Microsoft training, as I mentioned. But we're not just a gold partner with Microsoft. We're also strategically aligned with a lot of technology vendors in the marketplace to really be your one-stop shop when it comes to learning and development. Those partners also is Citrix. We're authorized learning center for them as well. So like as I mentioned, we are a one-stop shop. So you decided to migrate. Your CFO finally gave you your budget. So you started rubbing your hands together, you got excited, you reached out to Software One, started talking about some of your licensing options and business relevant options you have at your disposal. Reached out to Neil at QTS, started talking about integration strategies, deployment strategies, and all the things that's around that. What are some of the things you might not be considering? What are some of the things that could derail your projects and really create some headaches for you and your stakeholders? Well, first and foremost is user adoption, right? You're about to invest a lot of money, time, and effort into some very powerful tools to help make your business more productive, your people more efficient. If your people aren't using those tools, it's lots of waste of time and money. You've got some very upset decision makers and stakeholders within your organization. Nobody wants that, right? So a couple other things to worry about. Change management, right? Business continuity is king. Any downtime whatsoever is a pain and really have some ramifications across the business. Make sure that you are controlling this and you do not have any downtime. Last but not least, everybody's favorite topic, governance, right? We live in a very complicated and litigious world. Sarbanes-Oxley, HIPAA, and you're about to invest in some very powerful sharing and collaboration tools. It's very easy for some sensitive data to make it your way out of your network. So make sure you have a very clear, concise internal policy, and make sure you have controls in place to alleviate that, right? So, how can New Horizons help with these things? Well, step one is you want to prepare, right? You want to assess the new products or products that you deploy. Get your hands on this stuff. Try it before you buy. Then one of your IT pros, yourself, come in for a class, get your hands on all the functionality of these things before you decide to invest. You can also reach out to New Horizons, QTS, or Software One to talk about a customer immersion experience. And as a no cost to you, we can get you and all your stakeholders, all your decision makers into a room, some Windows 10 devices, Office 365 loaded up for you. You can actually go through we'll facilitate some scenarios for you, see how these tools can help your business. It'll really help you really understand the power of this investment and where you want to focus your attention. Also, you want to determine which product features become stumbling blocks for employees, right? Most organizations have a very quiet, powerful group of power users internally that are not unofficial subject matter experts. You want to engage these people, solicit their feedback, find out what their concerns are, find out where their focus is, and you can kind of craft your deployment strategies around that, and also get their buy-in at the same time, so you don't submarine your whole project. Successfully deliver the message of change to your employees. I cannot tell you how powerful this is, right? So you want to create excitement in your organization. You want to control the messaging. Ultimately, you want to make sure that people are excited about the things that they get their hands on and make their lives easier. We can help you do that. We have an internal marketing team that has pre-built marketing materials, whether it's marketing slips, forward email distributions, posters, excitement videos. All of it's customizable. We can brand it to your organization and really help generate excitement within the company. Step two, where the rubber meets the road. Let's get everybody trained, right? As I mentioned, you've got some power users internally. Make sure they have the skill sets and the information they need when they get these tools, right? We don't have any downtime for those people. Get your IT pros trained. Get them the tools that they need. We've got Office 365, Windows 10. We've got System Center. We talked about that earlier. Whether you're on-prem in the cloud, we've got classes that map right to those technologies. We mentioned Intune earlier. We've got a class that we're spinning up, should be ready to go in the first quarter of 2016 that deals with System Center and Intune. As you notice, these are all well, you should notice, but all these course numbers, these are official curriculum courses from Microsoft. So it's all authored content specific to the market and what you need to know. These classes can be attended open enrollment or customized and delivered in a private setting, either virtually at your location or at our location. And if we're going to talk about authorized classes, we got to talk about certification, right? Prove to the world you know what you're doing. Let your guys and girls know, let them show what they know what they're doing. One of the biggest objections I always hear about certification, especially from IT decision makers, is that they're afraid if they train their people up, get them certified, that they're going to leave the organization, go find a better job somewhere. I can tell you that far and away that almost never happens. The people that you get trained up and get certified, they're going to love you for it, but you don't have to take my word for it. The reality is, New Horizons has a policy that if you train up one of your staff members and they leave within a year, we will retrain your new staff member at no additional cost, right? So we're putting our money where our mouth is. You shouldn't have to worry about those things. Get your people trained. Also, I'll be remiss if I don't mention, Microsoft is really pushing Windows 10 certification. The exam is currently in beta, but if you pass it now, you'll be grandfathered into the final exam product. And we have a deal on the table right now, $4,500 for both the classes that map to that exam, and you get a free exam voucher. So if you're considering it, reach out to us, reach out to your rep, and we'll walk you through that process. And step 3. So maybe you didn't get it retrained right out of the gate. Well, we've got some solutions for you post-deployment, right? So there was a time and a place not too long ago that when we did these deployments, whether it was Windows 7, Windows Vista, XP, you name it, we can get all your people out of the office for a day, get them trained up, hands-on, dynamic instructor-led training, big time, big money investment. The reality is people can't stomach that anymore, right? People can't have the downtime away from their desks. We understand that. We create a product called Power Hour. These are 60-minute task-based training sessions, demonstrations only, 4 to 6 sessions per day, 30 students per session. Everybody gets a quick reference guide to go back to their desk with, just in case they didn't pick up everything they needed to know. You get trained. You can train a couple hundred people in just a few days. It's a very powerful solution that we have to make sure that people get the basic skill sets they need to make sure that they don't miss a beat, right? Desk side coaching. With any of these deployments, you're going to have an impact on your help desk, whether you like it or not. Right? Well, we can help alleviate that as well. We can actually send an instructor to your location. They can float around the office for the day, answer questions as they come up. You know, someone needs to know how to format a Word document. Someone needs to know how to build a pivot chart. Someone can't find their shortcuts. Well, we got a person on site at your location that can answer those questions without putting the burden on your help desk. Follow-up training, right? So all of our classes are modular. We're built to appeal to the widest audience as possible. They're comprehensive, but they're modulars. They can be chopped up and shaped any way you want. We can customize the training entirely to your specifications. We can incorporate your governance policies. We can build that right in the training, make sure to communicate that as well. And then we also have on-demand solutions. We have what's called an instant learning server. These are on-demand videos, task-based, as I mentioned. Whether you want to do pivot charts, pivot tables, anything like that, the employee can subscribe to this. On-demand training like that, or we have e-learning as well, traditional e-learning, dynamic, self-paced, interactive tutorials, year-long subscriptions, any number of solutions that you guys could be interested in. And every student that comes through our doors takes a post-class evaluation survey, right? We use a product called Metrics That Matter. It's a 1 to 9 scale on any number of topics, including instructor quality, environment, content, business relevance. All these things are measured. It helps us make business decisions, and the numbers don't lie. People want to be trained. Performance does rise. The investment is worth the money. And you know, people have bad days. People get pulled away from class. They have to put out a fire. Any number of issues can interrupt an education. We have a free 6-month retake policy. So, for whatever reason, your people want to come back in and sit the class again, come right back as part of our policy. So let's talk about funding. All right. So maybe panhandling in front of your CFO's office didn't work, right? You didn't get all the money you wanted, and funds are light for training. As a show of hands, how many people are familiar with software assurance training vouchers? All right, a couple of you guys. Well, this is free money, right? Free money for training for gold partners like us. If you have an enterprise agreement with Microsoft and you have software assurance as part of that licensing agreement, you more than likely have access to benefit days of training, which can be redeemed with Microsoft or with New Horizons for training. Not just IT pros, which is what the traditional application of that would be. You can actually send your end users for training now too, using the Power Hour vehicle that I mentioned earlier. So if you have an EA and you have software assurance, I highly recommend you investigate whether or not you have access to these training vouchers, because I think the number, it's a crazy number, like 70% of these things go unused and expire with the enterprise agreement. So find out if you have them. It's free training, tens of thousands of dollars at access that you can use for training with our organization and get your people the skill sets they need. All right. Any questions on that? All right. Any questions in general? Anything I talked about today? All right. That's all I have for you today. I will be in the back. If you have any additional questions, you take my card, and then I think we're going on break now.
So we're going to break now. We'll do about 10, 12 minutes. Restrooms, if anyone needs them, go out past reception where you came in. Take a left before the elevators. I have 10:22, so let's say we'll pick up at 10:35. Okay, and we'll start back up with software. Just do. Stop recording.
Oh, okay.
What it is?